All right. Welcome back to the Open Up podcast and to episode 86 with Sammy Jane Harper, happiness co ambassador and beautiful human. Thank you for doing this.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute honor.
First question straight off the bat. Could you please describe the way that you view yourself as a woman and or human?
The way I see myself as a woman and or human is very different to what I used to see myself as. I always used to see myself as not being enough, not being thin enough, not being pretty enough, not being worthy of love, which
Wow.
is something that I've worked on very, very hard over the past 12 months, especially.
Yeah, not enough. Okay. And so, what do you see yourself as now?
Now, um, now I do. I see myself as enough. I look at myself in the mirror and I think, you know what, you're okay. You got a little bit of a wobble here, you got a little bit of a dimple there, but that's what makes you a woman, and that's what makes you different and unique to, other people out there.
And that's probably the transformation that's going to change your life too. So, as small as that seems, that's probably going to have one of the most profound impacts on the way that you live your life.
Yeah, I think so. And I'm already noticing just over the past few weeks, especially, whereas I'm really drilling into my mind that, yeah, I am enough. Um, that I am beautiful enough, I am sexy enough, and it's something that I've been working on very, very hard. And I know it's something that many women and men even go through. And it's not easy to get to that point, but I've already noticed that life is starting to change in the way that I look at most things because I'm looking at myself better, are really starting to have more of a positive effect.
That's awesome. I'll ask you more about that later, but if you're comfortable, let's
Yeah.
dive straight into childhood. You can just tell your story, and I'll just jump in and ask whatever I want to know personally.
Okay, great. So my childhood, I guess, will start from when I was 13. So my mum left my brother and I with my dad when I was 13. My brother was 8. I still remember having the conversation sitting down at the bar. They were drinking. My brother and I weren't, obviously. Just saying, who do you want to live with? And it still goes on in the back of my mind constantly. Who do you want to live with, mum or dad? Because my mum was away for work most of the time, we chose dad. So dad raised my brother and I.
Wow. Keep going from there, buddy.
So we have a pretty close relationship. But after my mum left, my dad sort of went through the whole, because he would have only been about 35, so around my age at the time. And he just turned to alcohol and hatred and anger. And I just remember coming home from school every day just being so scared because he would just flip the house upside down. He'd just smash everything. There'd be smashed coffee tables. The kitchen would be smashed up. We used to try and get out the house and go for help from our neighbours, and he used to pull the phone out the wall and lock all the doors so we couldn't get help. Just remember that being a really, really scary part of my childhood.
Wow. So, with obviously having the decision put on you, which is pretty unfair as a kid, um, did you ever feel any guilt towards choosing your dad and then having your mum go away? Like, and obviously resulting in him being violent?
Um, I didn't like my mum for a very long time. We didn't get along probably till I was about 18 after that. We had our ups and downs. I guess I didn't feel any guilt. I felt like I had to be there for my dad, and that I was the one that sort of had to step up and help him. And at 13, that's a pretty big responsibility.
Yeah. It's a scary environment too, the one that you're sort of thrust into when your mum left and then your dad sort of turns into this violent person. Do you remember the story you told yourself about what was happening back then?
Um, I
Just
don't.
because most kids in that situation would put themselves as the main character in that story and then take on full weight responsibility of what had happened.
Yeah, I suppose it's like also where that not being enoughness comes from. That my mum didn't want me. My mum didn't want her children. Yeah, okay, she left my dad, but I guess at the end of the day, with thinking about it, she left us too, and why? Were we not good enough for her?
Yeah.
And I guess that's a bit of where the not enoughness comes from, now that you think about it.
Okay. You can keep telling it from there.
So after that, so my dad tried to take his life not long after Mum left, and luckily my neighbours found him. So I just remember spending time with a family friend and being picked up from school and saying, Dad's in hospital. He's sick. He's not very well. And it wasn't until I think probably even about 10 years ago that I found out why, that he had tried to take his life.
Wow.
Yeah, which is horrible. But he was our dad. We loved him so much and just wanted him to be happy.
What sort of person did you have to become while your dad was like that, like both violent and being like quote unquote sick?
I feel like I had to become a protector for my brother. Maybe taking on that mother role without even knowing that I was doing it,
Yeah.
but really had to be brave and be there for my brother and protect my brother from what he was seeing and because he was only 8 years old. That's so young. He didn't understand. I mean, I was only 13. I didn't understand. But looking back now, I feel like that's the role that I did take on without even knowing I was doing it.
That is a lot of pressure, and that means as well that you don't really get to experience adolescence or your teenage years as a teenager.
Yeah, yep, definitely.
So what happens moving forward from there?
So moving forward from there, we were hit with another tragedy a year later. My mum's brother took his life, which I was 14 at the time, so never really understood that. My mum got remarried about the same time, so not long after she left dad, and she married a very violent alcoholic who used to beat her up. And we would go there every second weekend reluctantly. We didn't want to go there every second weekend to mum's house because all we'd just hear is just her being so upset and hear the violence. And there we were, put into another violent situation at such a young age.
Just keep going, buddy, and I'll just jump in when I want to ask something.
Yeah, sure. I was just trying to catch a breath there. I thought, thanks for letting me relive this. Yeah, so that was really tough to go through as well. And then my dad met someone else, and as we grew up, she doesn't like me as a person. We grew up getting to know each other, but she turned against me because of the close relationship that I have with my dad. Like, my dad's my best friend. He certainly is, and I am so grateful that he took on that role to raise my brother and I. I'm very, very grateful for that. Mum and I are really close now, which is great. But yeah, at that time, and now I look back and I think, look, I'm really, really grateful that my dad did step up and take on that role as mum and dad, basically. And then the teenage years, they rolled in. And I suppose I was always the popular and happy girl at high school, until, one day that feeling of not enoughness and everyone turned against me in high school. So I left high school at an early age, at 14.
What, do you have an understanding of why people turned against you in high school?
I don't, to be fair. It was just a weekend where some girls weren't invited to a party and then everyone hated me for it. So, one of those high school sort of type bullying situations.
Yeah.
And instead of confronting what was going on at the time, I fled. So, the fight or flight.
Yeah.
I flew and I left school and I went into the workforce.
Wow. And how old were you then?
14. No, I wasn't. I was 15. Sorry, 15.
Wow, that's young to leave school.
Yeah.
And to put yourself in a position to work just because of something like that.
Yeah, it was something that, looking back now, hard conversations, easy life, but I I chose the I chose the other way
Had
and
you
ran away.
always been like that? Because obviously you've been in this position as a protector, and it sounds like you, although you had to because that was your dad,
Mm.
you're in a position where you remain steadfast and you were there for your brother, and then to run away from a situation like this sort of seems silly for someone who's dealt with so much already.
It does, doesn't it? It really seems a bit out of character, but and I have done that moving like a lot. Looking back, have run away from a problem rather than face it.
Was that the first time you'd in that social setting had people against you?
Yes, yeah,
Okay, that makes sense
definitely.
then.
Yeah, that was yeah,
Especially
it was
if
a
you
bit
had an
nasty.
especially if you had an underlying belief that you weren't enough and that you didn't fit in, then obviously if people are confirming that, then it's going to be hard to face.
Yeah, can definitely see that. And running away at that time seemed like the better option for me.
Um, Keep telling it from there.
So then we go into the 20s. So by this time, mum was still married and still in a really violent relationship. My mum and I sort of parted ways because she chose this new man over my brother and I, which hurt, definitely hurt. Going into my 20s, that's when late 20s, turned to alcohol, and I was getting a lot of attention from men because I had bloomed, I
Yeah.
suppose, and become a woman. And I was, I thought I was attractive. I was, fun and happy and the good looking one. And then, yeah, I guess I just used that and turned to men for that love that I was lacking from my childhood.
Yeah, and looking back now, can you relate that back to like certain events from your childhood?
I can definitely relate that back to mum leaving and me feeling like I'm not enough and lacking that love that we didn't get from dad either. We never, throughout our childhood after mum left, never got that love, that support, that, you are enough, or enough, you are doing an amazing job, congratulations, the pat on the back, that recognition. We never had that growing up
Okay.
from either parent.
Did you said you were the protector for your brother. Did you ever play the role of pleaser to try and get some of that recognition?
I would say so. If I look back on it, I would definitely say so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Always been a bit of a people pleaser as well, to make other people happy, and to get that recognition and that pat on the back.
Yeah. Okay, so you go into alcohol and then um, I guess seeking validation through men. What happens from there?
So yeah, seeking that validation through men and getting drunk, and that sort of all went into my 30s. And then I met a guy who I thought was the bee's knees and I was going to spend the rest of my life with. We went on a family holiday to Bali, and he left me there. So he left me in a foreign country all by myself, checked out of the hotel room, and no explanation whatsoever as to why he had gone, wouldn't answer my phone calls. We were stuck there because of the volcanic ash at that time. So
Yeah.
I couldn't get on a plane and come home. I had no money. I was stranded in Bali by myself, heartbroken. So later found out that the reason why he had left me, and I found this out when I got home, was because I was overweight and I embarrassed him in front of his parents.
Wow. Well, if you already felt like you weren't enough, what a way to have that confirmed by someone that you love.
Yeah. Uh, um, it was hard. It was really, really hard. And it still hurts to this day, just thinking about it. Just that feeling of, yeah, not being enough, not being loved. And then someone I thought who really loved me obviously didn't.
Yeah, and that's sort of like going all the way back to your mum, someone who's supposed to be your protector, there to love you and like nurture you, has just all of a sudden left and like again left you in this lurch. further instilling that belief that you're not enough.
Yeah.
That's really sad. How do you, moving forward from there, how do you deal with that level of pain or disrespect?
I now have turned my pain into my passion and my power. And I do thank him in my mind every day for that happening, because I am a different person now. I put the right foods into my body. I exercise. I treat myself with a lot more love.
Yeah.
Still like a drink. But and using that pain that to push me forward and go, you know what, I am enough. I deserve better than this. And I am beautiful. I'm not overweight, you know. What a horrible thing to be told from the man that you wanted to spend the rest of your life with.
And so did you stay with him after that, or was that the end of the relationship?
No, that was the end of the relationship. And then when I got back, I found out that I was 11 weeks pregnant.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was the extra little bit of cherry on top of that pie. I did lose that baby though.
Okay. So with we'll come back to that, but in being told or finding out that someone has left you because you're overweight and have embarrassed them, how do you then respond to that? Because I can imagine most people's response would be, I'm not enough. I'm going to do whatever it takes to be the opposite of this so that someone does value me.
Yes. So I definitely did turn that on its head and go, you know what? Yeah, I am enough, and I do deserve to be loved, no matter what body shape I am, no matter how I show up. I just think at the end of the day, sorry, I'm trying to get my words right here.
You're right.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether you're a size 8, whether you're a size 12, 14, 16, 22. It's how you feel about yourself on the inside that matters. And if a man doesn't love you for that, well, that's at the end of the day, that's his loss, isn't it?
Yep. And I can attest to that because uh, I was like the gym junkie, and my partner from Kalgoorlie, she was very, very overweight. Like looking back now, she was very overweight. And I remember taking her back home and people telling me she was fat, and I just couldn't see it because I was just so in love with her.
Yeah.
And so if it doesn't really matter how big you are, or if you're overweight, it I think it all comes down to personality and how you carry yourself. Because I honestly had no idea.
Well, there you go. And then there's those things like, I've definitely after this happened, I've carried on into future partnerships and dating, like feeling like, really subconscious and self-conscious about my body. Like, don't lean this way, you'll have a roll that way, or don't do that, and you carry that forward. But at the end of the day, if someone really truly loves you, they're not going to see all of that.
Yep.
It doesn't matter.
How did you? What was your relationship to exercise and food after that? Did it become negative at all?
It did to begin with. So as soon as we broke up, I obviously started drinking more, eating the wrong foods, binge eating because it made me feel better at the time, drinking 2 bottles of wine a night because it numbed the pain. Swiping left, right, and center on Tinder, trying to fill that void and trying to fill that hurt. And I was just meeting guy after guy who was just no good for me, and just spiraling back down into that hole of not being enough and not being good enough.
With that feeling of not being good enough, did you find you were attracting guys who like only affirmed that you weren't?
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
Yeah, that's probably one of the biggest takeaways somebody's going to get out of this is that
Yeah.
if you portray yourself as someone who isn't worthy of love or whatever, then you're probably going to be treated that way.
Yep. And I continued probably, I don't know, up until not long ago, to be fair, to attract those type of men into my life because I didn't feel like I was enough. So why would I attract, a man that thought that I was?
For you, how would that belief manifest in like the way that you interacted with guys?
It would be, the intimate side of things, rushing into sex because I felt like they loved me if that's what we were doing. Um, I felt like I was wanted and I was needed, where it was just the complete opposite.
So, do you feel like you lost respect for yourself in trying to find validation from others?
Definitely. 100%, definitely.
That's sad, especially
Yeah.
having met you, knowing the sort of person you are. Like you're super bubbly, outgoing.
And then on the inside, I'm just screaming for love.
um, Going back to, if you're okay talking about this, losing, or you said you were pregnant and then you lost that. Um, what were you going through mentally, knowing that that was the baby, to the guy who said that to you?
I guess in a way, I was in the end quite grateful that the baby wasn't born.
Yeah,
Um, for me, myself, because I didn't want to bring a human being and a child into an unloving relationship or to be a part of to bring someone else into something that I had just been through, which nearly killed me. I remember in Bali just going, I don't want to be here anymore. If there was anything that I could have done in that moment to take my life, I would have done it. So for me to come back and find out that I was pregnant, and then not knowing that I was pregnant until I lost the baby, um, I think it was a bit of a kind of a relief. But then I'd always pushed those feelings down and down and down. And it hasn't been up until recently that I have actually looked at that and gone, you know what? That actually quite hurt me. So I just pushed it down further and further and further so I didn't have to deal with that.
yeah. Well, that's a that's something massive to happen, like to bury. That is something deep. How is there, like, looking back now? Obviously, hindsight's 2020. Has that impacted or influenced your behavior at all? Burying that trauma itself?
I would say so. Looking at it, thinking maybe burying things and not dealing with it, not dealing with problems and just trying to run away from them like I did in high school.
Well, well, I don't want to put words in your mouth at all, but was there any uh, guilt on your part at all because of the way your mother left and then having lost the baby?
Yeah. And I haven't realized that until recently.
Well, that's profound.
Yeah, I
How?
just buried that feeling. And then, yeah, it hasn't been up until like the past couple of weeks because of circumstances that have happened to me personally. And it's come up. And I'm like, oh, I haven't dealt with that. And then, yeah, that feeling of guilt of a mother leaving their child.
How have you been working through that? Because
I've been,
obviously that's something you don't deserve to feel, but
yeah,
I guess for most people, or for a lot of people, they'll be going through something that they don't deserve to feel, but then they take on that weight and that responsibility anyway.
I think I've just been working on a lot of personal development, a lot of self love, and just surrounding myself with people who understand and who I can talk to and open up to,
Yeah.
has been very, very, very helpful.
So you go through all this. You go through your your mum leaving, your dad becoming violent, becoming suicidal, your mum's violent relationship, and then having the breakdown in the relationship with her. You go through the stage seeking validation through men, and then having your partner leave you, and then losing losing your baby. How have you managed to overcome all of that? Because that is a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, and a lot of hurt.
I'll be honest, nutrition, putting the right foods in my body, exercising, um, just, yeah, doing the right things for me mentally. And 100% definitely the personal development that I have done through Happiness Co over the past 2 years, which I am now a proud ambassador for, which is awesome. So I've been an ambassador for Happiness Co for 6 months now, and oh no, 8 months. Wow, that went quick. And just giving my love back to other people and helping other people through situations that they may have been through similar, or feelings that they may feel similar to me, also helps me feel better about myself also.
That's amazing. Do you remember the first time you were introduced to Happiness Co? Like what you thought about yourself, how you were feeling about life in general, and then like the sort of the transformation from there?
I didn't want to be here, to be honest. So 12 months ago, I'll still remember the call that I had with Julian. I was ready to take my life 12 months ago, because I think now, and after talking to you, have realized that I had pushed these feelings so deep down that I didn't want to deal with them. That everything just came, like every tiny little thing that happened in my life would bring up something. And then those feelings of not being enough and being a horrible person or being overweight or, yeah, just not worthy of love would come back. And I just had enough. I can't do this anymore. What's the point? It's going to keep happening to me. So the work that I have done through Happiness Co has helped me deal with every single area of that and to work on that every single day.
That's powerful. What are some of the most powerful tools that you've used to help you overcome that? Because the feeling of not being enough is probably prevalent in nearly everyone.
I'll go through the body image because that's probably one of my main things. Obviously, with my partner leaving me because I was overweight, and so we do a lot of pillars about body image and about liking and disliking parts of ourselves, and really, really getting down into the nitty gritty about what we do love about ourselves, rather than concentrating on what we don't love. Because I'm sure everyone can agree there's lots of things that we don't like about ourselves. But how about we concentrate on things that we do love?
Yeah. How have you been able to do that? Because it's easy to say that, but it's another thing to actually believe that these parts of you are okay, or they're more than okay.
Just consistency, and just doing the do every single day, and just looking at myself in the mirror and saying, you are enough, you are beautiful, you are sexy.
Yeah, and
you are curvy, and that's okay.
and that, to anyone who hasn't tried, that would sound cringy or woo woo esoteric, but
Yeah.
it really does work. And the best way that I think to look at that is the story you've been telling yourself of I'm fat, I'm overweight, I'm not enough. You've literally been saying that, doing that same thing, but without a mirror. You've just been saying it in your head over and over. And so if you keep practicing in the mirror, you're literally reversing that process, reverse engineering it.
Yeah. So imagine, how many times a day that we use negative self-talk and telling ourselves that we're especially women, we're overweight. We've got cellulite, we don't like this, we don't like that. We're not as pretty as that girl on Instagram. We're not doing the same thing as what our friends are doing. Imagine reverse engineering that and telling yourself, I am enough. I am beautiful. I am sexy. I do like my big booty.
I don't know why you wouldn't.
I'm starting to love it. So in the squats, my friend. And just telling yourself that every single day rather than telling yourself the negative stuff. It really does start to stick. It does take time. It doesn't happen overnight, but the more you tell yourself, the more you really start to love those parts that you didn't like in the first place.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you remember the moment or like the period where it sort of finally clicked or dawned on you, like, holy shit, I actually feel like I'm enough. I actually feel like I love the person I am and the body that I have?
Yeah, it was 2 weeks ago.
Fuck.
So it was it's very recent. It was 2 weeks ago at a live Happiness Co event in Perth.
Wow.
I had a bit of a breakthrough moment myself. which I wasn't expecting. I went in there like, to shine my torch of love onto everybody else. And I had a bit of a moment on one of the mornings. And since I've come back, I don't know, it was like this big relief, like this thing I was like, had weighing down on my shoulders that was just so heavy. And I feel like it's just gone. And every single day since I got back, I have been working on my self-belief. I also, working on my nutrition and making sure I'm putting the right things into my body, and it's just been an incredible 2-week transformation so far.
What, in terms of nutrition, what are the things that you've changed to help you?
Drinking less for starters. So, drinking those 2 bottles of wine. Look, this has been longer than the 2 weeks, by the way. But drinking less, just drinking when I'm happy rather than drinking when I'm sad. Very wise man once taught me that. Only drink when you're happy. Don't drink when you're depressed and feeling shitty about yourself. Definitely just learning about foods and what foods help with your dopamine and your serotonin levels, and fueling your body correctly. And it makes the biggest difference. It really does.
Yeah, because if your body's in a state of dis-ease, your mind's going to take on that same state as well.
Yeah.
And I don't think people quite understand the link between the gut and the brain, and how profound nutrition is, like being digested and utilized, assimilated in the gut, and then the way that impacts your brain and how you process information.
And it's so true. I mean, the saying is you are what you eat. But when you really start to believe that, when you really start to fuel your body with the right foods at the right times, you really realize you are what you eat. Like when, after Bali, obviously, couldn't tell you what I ate. It wouldn't have been very good. A wine and pizza diet.
That sounds really good right now.
Yeah, it actually does. Yeah, and just, not looking after yourself. You've just got to look after yourself. If you don't look after yourself, how do you expect anyone else to?
Yeah, exactly. And that goes along the lines of affirming that you're not enough. If you keep eating bad food, you're just reinstilling that belief that I'm not worthy, I don't deserve love, I'm not enough, and so therefore I'm going to feed myself food that I know is going to make me fat or make me feel shit.
Even though that was the problem in the first place,
Yeah.
apparently. Oh, dear.
I think that's about it for your story, buddy. I've got a couple quick questions before we wrap up.
Sure.
Knowing everything that you've been through a lot. What would you say the quality of your life is like now?
In the past 2 weeks? Great. Watch this space. You might have to interview me again in 6 months. I think the quality of my life is a hell of a lot better than what it was. Those things that have happened to me in the past have shaped me as a woman. And I am grateful for a lot of the things that have happened along the way, although they're really awful at the time. They definitely do shape you as a person and make you realize the areas of your life that you need to fix, the areas of life that you need to work on, and who you need to become to be the best version of yourself. And I really do truly believe that now is the time that I'm becoming that best version of myself.
Yes.
It's a bit sloppy, isn't it?
Oh, that's super cute. What have you added to your life or removed from it to improve the quality of it?
I am removing a lot of negativity from my life. A lot of people in my life that did bring a lot of negative energy into my life, and I'm finding that is helping also. And just bringing a lot of work. Like, I love what I do for work, so just concentrating on work and just doing things every day that make me happy.
Yay. What are you most grateful for right now?
Not taking my life last year when I really wanted to.
Fuck
I am
yeah.
so grateful that I didn't do it.
Fuck yes.
So
I'm sure there are 100 people in that room in Perth that are grateful too, because that's probably the most love I've ever felt in my life.
Wasn't it beautiful? Absolutely. Just the impact that we can all have as human beings onto other people is there's no words for it. It's just incredible.
That's amazing. Last question. If you had the chance to put a message on a billboard, where thousands of people would see it, what would that message be?
Two words. Love yourself.
That's
Just
amazing.
love being you, yeah?
That's really cool. Um, to wrap this up, buddy, I want to thank you for making time for downloading Skype.
You're so welcome. I'm just I was a Skype virgin, so we popped that cherry.
Nice. I
With a
thought you
few
stopped that.
Oh yeah, I have stopped that, haven't I?
But I want to acknowledge you, like most of all, for what you've done, everything that you've been through, a lot of trauma, a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of hurt, and to now be in this position as an ambassador with Happiness Co. to be shining that love and light onto everyone else, like you said, that's powerful, it's profound, and I'm grateful you're doing it, buddy.
Thank you so much. I have never really told my whole story before, so that was a little bit tricky, but also another nice relief, and to know that if there is something in there that I have been through that can just help impact one life, then I've done my job.
Yep, that's the first step. You'll be on that stage with Happiness Co. soon.
Oh, well, we need a little bit more training before that happens, but that is definitely the goal. You know, there's a lot of beautiful people out here in this world. They just need to really start to believe in themselves, and the way that society is now with the social media and everything else, it is tricky. It's hard, but it can be done.
100%. I believe in you, buddy. You have a good day.
Thank you so much, Lucky. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.